This episode is brought to you by Amazon Prime. There's nothing sweeter than baking cookies during the holidays. With Prime, I get all my ingredients delivered right to my door, fast and free, no last-minute store trips needed. And of course, I blast my favorite holiday playlist on Amazon Music. It's the ultimate soundtrack for creating unforgettable memories. From streaming to shopping, it's on Prime. Visit Amazon.com/Prime to get more out of whatever you're into.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 2.
Well, we've had the devil come down to Georgia, and Johnny took him on with the fiddle and won. We've been marked safe from the devil here in Georgia, but we've got Joe Biden and Donald Trump coming. The smell of sulfur in the air, depending on which side you're on and who you're sniffing. It's not old man smell, it's just sulfur. And then you've got the U.S. Olympic team coming to Georgia as well. Traffic's already a disaster. Here in the metro Atlanta area, it's only going to get worse. So my flagship station, WSB in Atlanta, has an amazing triple team traffic operation. They have helicopters. They have a 24-hour manned operation where they can look at the DOT cameras. You can call in. They have this app you can get on, and it tracks all the problems faster than Google and Waze can do. You can route your routes through. It really is an amazing traffic operation. They doubled down on traffic as a way to distinguish themselves in an ever-increasing field of competition with podcasts and radio and streaming and satellite, and their traffic sets them apart. Today, the Secret Service will make them ground the helicopter, and at some point, the DOT traffic cameras will go dark so that no one knows where they're going or how to get there, because the routes of the presidential motorcades going to Turner Communications in Midtown Atlanta. If you've ever driven through Atlanta, downtown on the interstate, it's called the Connector. It is I-75 and I-85 combined, and they split off in the north end and the south end there, and around 14th Street in Atlanta. Well, between, I guess, 10th and 14th Street is the Turner Building Complex. It's where Ted Turner started CNN before they moved to the CNN Center, and now the progressive new owners of CNN have wound down the CNN Center and moved it all back to Turner there by Georgia Tech. And so there will be a debate there, and about 5 or 6 blocks away will be the U.S. men's Olympic soccer team. Traffic is going to be a disaster. No one's going to get anywhere. The Donner Party will be at play. It'll be snowmageddon, snowpocalypse. People will be dying on the side of the road, except this time in heat, not snow, because they can't get anywhere. People will become cannibals, starve. Even the Varsity is closing. The famed hot dog joint near Georgia Tech right on the interstate, it's closing because of the traffic disaster and mess. No one will be able to get there. You should leave now while you can. Get out now. Get out with your life. Go home immediately. Avoid the area. I am ensconced in my remote studio location. I refuse to go near the city. Johnny kept us safe from the devil with his fiddle playing, but we got 2 old geezers coming into the state to ruin everything tonight. We need to be marked safe from Trump and Biden. You know, here's the thing about this debate. The bottom line of this debate, whether people want to admit it or not, is that it's going to be a Rorschach test. You know what the Rorschach test is. It's you see an ink blot. And that ink blot, you interpret it as something, and you can see one thing and someone else can see something else. You can see a beautiful butterfly. Someone else can see a demon killing your mom. It's however you look at the ink blot. Tonight, Donald Trump's voters will end the presidential debate insisting that Dana Bash and Jake Tapper were nasty, mean bullies to Donald Trump who obsessed over Donald Trump and gave Joe Biden a break to help Joe Biden and try to steal the election for him. Tonight, Joe Biden supporters will be viciously angry with Jake Tapper and Dana Bash because they were not exceedingly hard on Donald Trump. They did not ask him enough questions about January 6th, and they had the audacity to question Joe Biden. How dare they? And everyone else in America will be angry with Dana Bash and Jake Tapper for not executing both men live on television and telling the parties, do better next time. 60+% of Americans do not want either of these men to be president of the United States, and everyone's going to tune in tonight to watch the debate. This is going to be, and I don't mean this with hyperbole at all, in all genuine honesty, candor, and seriousness, this is going to be the most important presidential debate any of us probably ever watch. That's not to build up the hype unexpectedly. Just consider this. We're in an election where, if the polling is to be believed, it's about a 50-50 election. And 60% of voters don't want either man. People's minds, to a degree, are already made up. But if Joe Biden has a senior moment on stage tonight, he's finished. And frankly, with the polling that's starting to come out, he may be finished already. There's been a decisive shift in the tone of the polling coverage, noting that in so many cases, the polling has shifted to deep unfavorables for Joe Biden. He's now in Quinnipiac 57% unfavorable, 61% unfavorable with Gallup, 59% unfavorable for Biden, overwhelmingly unfavorable. And as his unfavorability has risen, Donald Trump's polling has risen as well. Donald Trump has already said privately to people that he knows he did badly in 2020 by coming off as too much of a jerk on stage, interrupting Joe Biden constantly. He's got to be likable. He wants to be likable tonight. And, you know, they're going to make it a little easier for him. CNN did a demonstration for its audience on how the debate's going to work tonight. I kind of like the format. I want to play for you this video they ran earlier of their anchor with Phil Mattingly on stage in Atlanta discussing how the microphones will work. Yes, it's visual, but you'll hear the situation of how it's going to work tonight.
If we go behind the podiums, you can see two green lights. When they're on, they signal to the candidate his microphone is on. When the green lights are off, they signal to the candidate his microphone is off. Now I want to give you a sense of what it will look like for viewers at home if a candidate whose microphone is off interrupts a candidate whose microphone is on. So I'm standing at one podium, and I'll ask Phil to come in and take the other podium. And so let's say I'm answering a question. My light is green, and I'm speaking. Phil's microphone is off, and his green lights are not illuminated. He's going to interrupt me as I'm speaking, and this is what it will sound like. My volume remains constant, while Phil's interruption can be difficult to understand.
Now, let's try the opposite. My microphone is now on. Victor's microphone is off, and he's going to interrupt me. My volume remains constant, while Victor's interruption can be difficult to understand. Now, CNN's production team has shared this demonstration with the campaigns earlier today, and we're sharing it with you, our viewers, so everyone fully understands how tomorrow night will work. Now, we should note, by agreeing to participate in this debate, both campaigns and candidates have also agreed to abide by these rules. The CNN presidential debate airs live tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, except it's tonight now. It's airing tonight. You're not going to be here, the guy. This is going to help Donald Trump tremendously. It will help Donald Trump. He'll have no incentive to talk over Joe Biden, and Joe Biden needs Donald Trump to talk over him because Joe Biden's going to have a senior moment. That's the real fear of the campaigns, is that there will be this desire for Joe Biden to impress as he does. He's a fabulist. He makes stuff up to impress people. And when he does, he says stupid stuff, and then he gets lost in his lie and meanders. The rules of the debate tonight, let me read them for you. These are the official rules. The debate will be 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. Campaign staff will not be allowed to interact with the candidates during those breaks. The right is already seeding the usual conspiracy theory that Joe Biden will have an earpiece or have had cranial surgery, and that's why he's disappeared, so that they can talk to him or through him at the podium. The candidates will appear at a uniform podium. A coin flip will determine the position of the podiums. Microphones will be muted, except for the candidate whose turn it is to speak. Moderators, the network said, will use all tools at their disposal to enforce timing and ensure a civilized discussion. No props. No pre-written notes will be allowed on stage. Candidates will have a pen, a pad of paper, and a bottle of water. There will be no studio audience. Those are the rules of the debate tonight. It starts at 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. What I find most fascinating about it all is that 20% of the viewing audience, according to a CBS News poll, says they're watching to decide who to vote for. 20% needs help making up their mind who to vote for. After all of this, really? This is when we talk about, you guys, I don't care where you stand politically on this. You made up your mind. There are 20% of voters who are thinking, I'm not sure who to vote for. Do I want the last guy or do I want this guy? I mean, how? I don't know. How can you not know? This is low information voters. Low information voters. They are a thing, and they will watch tonight. And they won't decide based on what the candidates say. They'll decide based on who wore the prettiest, shiniest tie, whose hair was done up the best, who had the best makeup, who smiled the most, who looked at the camera and looked like they wanted to kiss my soul. That's what these people will do. And you need to understand that they're out there. They exist. They are a thing. They show up and they vote. That's the most remarkable thing is these people vote. And they're the ones who are going to decide the race. Y'all, Joe Biden won Georgia, which has 16 electoral college votes, by slightly more than 11,000 votes. I can hear you. I know you think it was stolen. But for sake of argument, he won the state by just over 11,000 votes. If Donald Trump, who made a big play for black voters yesterday in Georgia, my buddy Shelley Winter, I saw was at the event. Trump called in on speakerphone there. It looked like in a barber shop. He's making a play for the black vote. He doesn't have to win a majority. He doesn't even need to win a minority. He only needs to pick up about 4 or 5 more percent. And if he does that, it's not going to be 11,000 vote margin for either man. It's going to be more than that. And if it's not close, they can't cheat. This is going to be one of the most important presidential debates any of us have ever watched, in large part because we're looking to see if 2 80-year-olds fall on their face. And whoever does is going to lose. I don't know how many drugs they've given Joe Biden. I got to admit, I try to be a reasonable person. I try not to be too outlandish. And the reason is because I know who the audience is, and there are a lot of persuadable people who listen, who they may not like my side of the aisle. They may not like the people on my side, but they can be persuaded to vote for them nonetheless because they don't like the other side either. And they're really interested in the issues and who is going to be best for their family. And I try to be reasonable, and I try not to go down rabbit holes, and I try to avoid the conspiracies. I am convinced Joe Biden is going to take some drug to amp him up tonight. I am convinced the reason he's been gone all week is because they're trying to adjust his sleep schedule to get it close to 9 p.m. being his morning time, and they're going to hop him up on some drug, speed, cocaine, something, probably not cocaine, but they're going to give him a B12 booster shot before he gets on stage to kick him into high gear in a steroid pack to keep him up all night. They're going to do something because Joe Biden at that age, at that mental capacity, at 9 p.m. otherwise isn't functional. And they're going to hope like hell that the things people remember about him are a State of the Union address in the debate tonight. But God help them if he brings up corn pop and cannibals, and he's very likely to do both. Greetings, my friends. It is Eric Erickson, and the phone number is 877-973-7425. Pierce is waiting patiently about the debate. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good, Eric. How are you?
Great.
Sorry to hear about your wife's toes. Hope they heal quickly.
Oh, she'll be fine. She'll still be able to kick me in the rear. She'll have one good working foot.
Hey, there's a couple of things that kind of seems like it's gone over people's head. Number one, and you just mentioned it in this last segment, was they had to take Biden to Camp David to get his sleep schedule adjusted. And people just let that go over their head. And it's,
yeah.
and the other thing is Jake Tapper made a statement about 4 weeks ago that if he interviews Trump and he asks him about the stolen election and he won't answer the question, he said, I will get up and walk off the interview. If he won't answer that question, I won't ask any other questions. So how hung up is he going to get on trying to get Trump questioned on January 6th? I mean, on the election. And
Pierce, I'm really interested to see how he and Dana Bash handle this, because my gut tells me if they push too hard and become combative with Trump, that actually helps Donald Trump, because
I think so too.
Trump can say, look, I'm willing to come debate with hostile moderators and Joe Biden, and this is what I get. I'm here to answer your questions. Do you want to have a debate about the future of the country or not? And whether there will be people on the left who really don't like his answer there, and Pierce, thanks for the call. But at the same time, if he goes in that direction, if they overplay their hand, I think it helps Trump. Now, here's what I know is going to happen. It doesn't matter. Whatever questions they ask, they could ask Donald Trump, why are you so awesome? And Donald Trump supporters are going to say it was an unfair, hostile debate with nasty moderators. And if they ask Joe Biden, why does your poop not stink? You're so awesome. Joe Biden's supporters are going to say it was a nasty, nasty debate moderator and they were unfair and too mean to Joe Biden. It doesn't matter. They're in a no-win situation, but they're up for the job and that's what they want to do. So God bless them. Now, I got to tell you about Old Glory Bank, y'all. In fact, hang on a second. Where is this? They sent me this. Yes. They've started a crowdfunding site. So, the concept of Old Glory Bank is a bank by conservatives for conservatives where you're not going to get canceled. Well, they've seen all these conservative causes get canceled on these crowdfunding sites, and so they've started Old Glory Alliance, crowdfunding without the politics. So you can raise money for patriotic causes, and you don't have to worry about the vigilantes coming to shut it down. The account for your campaign is FDI insured up to $250,000. Anyone can contribute, but you got to be an Old Glory Bank customer to start an Old Glory Alliance campaign. It takes just 8 minutes to open your account at oldglorybank.com. Old Glory Alliance is fundraising, flag raising, freedom raising. You can go to oldgloryalliance.com to check it out. Get your bank account set up at oldglorybank.com. I've got one. I use them. I'll be using Old Glory Alliance. Old Glory Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. It turns out that the illegal alien who killed 2 police officers is from the Venezuela TDA gang and says killing cops is in his nature. They've been flooding the country with their gang members. They've let out of prison. They've been flooding our country with their gang members. Now, 2 police officers in New York City are dead by illegal aliens who wouldn't be here but for Joe Biden's refusal to secure the border. That should come up tonight. To the phones we go about this debate, 877-973-7425. Dwayne, you're up next. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for taking my call. By the way, I ordered your book, okay?
Thank you.
Looking forward to reading it.
I hope it doesn't suck.
I expected it won't. Anyway, so what I'm curious about with the debate, first off, I've been trying to figure this thing out and who's going to do what and all. And I really can't. It's just going to see how it plays out. And we know that they're all going to favor Biden. It's going to lean that way. But my biggest question is, for Biden, how is he going to be able to listen to and understand and respond to a question? When they had him hyped up for the State of the Union, he's reading off a teleprompter. But now he's going to have to listen and digest a question and make an answer. And you remember, like, when he had that press conference not long ago, somebody says, I got 2 questions. He goes, no, only 1 question. I mean, he's going to really be limited. I wanted your thoughts on that.
Yeah, this is, I think, something the Democrats themselves are worried about. It's also why Republicans are seeding the theory that he's going to have an earpiece or something. I don't know if you guys remember back in 2004, it was the Democrats who claimed that George W. Bush had on some sort of system to have answers relayed, and that's why the George Jimmy Bush Hitler Halliburton who's too stupid to be president could somehow give cogent answers against the ever so smart John Kerry. And now it's the right's turn to claim the same thing about Joe Biden. Look, if I were a Democrat, and I know some of them, and they are concerned, Joe Biden without a teleprompter, how is he going to be able to do it? He loses his train of thought so easily without a teleprompter, without notes in front of him. There will be no note cards, no pre-printed text. By the way, I got to say, oddly, Jill Biden, the First Lady of the United States, is in the air. Why is she coming in her own plane? Shouldn't she be on the plane with Joe to make sure everything is fine? It looks like a buddy of mine just sent me a note and said, nope, looks like she's coming separately. That in and of itself, but y'all, yeah, the Joe Biden going off script, off teleprompter with no teleprompter, it's going to be a mess for him. I mean, look at how he wandered off in Italy. I don't think the Democrats appreciate how badly tonight could go for Joe Biden. So I actually want to play this out for a little bit. I want to spend a moment on this. I know many of you are in the camp that you think this is all a plot by the Democrats to push Joe Biden out. I don't think it is, but I think inevitably that's going to be what happens if he has a bad debate. They won't rally around him. They will do whatever they can to push him out. But what does that look like if he has a bad debate? I don't know. Maybe he has a great debate. Maybe he does. And I will, you all know, I'll take the slings and arrows from my own side. If I think Joe Biden does okay, I'll tell you. I don't think they've gone through this extraordinary amount of prep for him, secluding him at Camp David, cloistering him there, holding him up, getting his sleep schedule right for him to have a bad debate. But he could. If he does, you're going to have Obama and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi go to the White House and say, Joe, it's time to go. Because legally, this is the thing a lot of conservatives don't seem to appreciate or understand about Joe Biden and the Democratic nomination. They've concocted conspiracy theories about pushing him out of the race, but legally they can't push him out of the race because the delegates under the laws of the several states are bound to Joe Biden and must cast their vote for Joe Biden at the Democratic convention. They can't just change their minds. Legally, they are bound to Joe Biden, and Joe Biden could get a court order and force his delegates to vote for him. They cannot abandon Joe Biden legally. They are bound to him. So to get Joe Biden out of the race, it would take the leaders of the Democratic Party going to him to push him aside. It would take Jill Biden and his family convincing him he must step aside because the delegates are bound to him. And if he leaves, he unbinds the delegates. He cannot pledge the delegates to someone else. He can encourage them to go, for example, to Kamala Harris, but he can't bind the delegates to someone else if he drops out. It is a cumbersome, convoluted process when you get to that point. And the Democrats, if they're at that point, they've probably lost the race anyway. They're looking at a lose-lose scenario if they push Joe Biden out of the race. And so the easier strategy for them is to just leave him in the race and hope for the best. Hope the economy turns. Hope the situation improves. Hope his popularity goes up. Hope Donald Trump's popularity goes down. Make it about Donald Trump, convicted felon, nonstop, 24/7, convicted felon, convicted felon. Can you really do it? There's 10% of the GOP that doesn't think they can. There's a significant portion of independents that don't think they can. Boost your ground game, work the fundamentals, work the ground game, maximize your vote. They put pedal to metal, nose to the ground, and work to get out their vote systematically, scientifically, data-driven. I think that's probably their best option than shoving Joe Biden aside and hoping for the best and provoking a civil war among the Democratic Party. But they're going to have problems. A great ground game in a very close race can make the difference between a winner or a loss. But as the race doesn't stay close, as Trump starts to open up the race because of Joe Biden, if he has a spectacular senior moment on stage, ground game's not going to overcome just the wave of people that show up. And there are problems starting to show up on the economic horizon. This is from Bloomberg News. The recurring jobless claims have risen to their highest level since the end of 2021. Continuing applications jumped to 1.84 million in the week of June 15th. 4-week moving average of new claims rose last week. That's a warning sign suggesting it's taking longer for unemployed people to find a job. On top of that, the Biden administration has released GDP numbers by industry group. Retail trade, construction, finance, and insurance. Those are the top 3 biggest movers in GDP, but there's a problem. Retail trade is led by pharmaceutical companies and people on drugs, whether it's weight loss drugs like Ozempic and the like. That's what's leading there. In construction, it's actually government-subsidized green projects. It's not private sector construction that's booming. It's green projects funded by the government. In finance and insurance, the only reason that industry is growing is because of insurance premiums going up, because of climate change hysteria and pressure from the left. That doesn't sound like a stable economy. And all these headwinds come the economic issues. And the media itself is starting to turn on, well, they're starting to turn on the Democrats. This is a reporter. You know, there was a story I talked to you about yesterday. 400 people have been smuggled into this country by ISIS. The government has found most, but not all. Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas was asked about this and this claim from this news report.
DHS confirms that at least 400 migrants with potential ISIS ties recently crossed into the United States.
That is incorrect.
Tell us why.
That reporting is incorrect. We do not have identified 400 people with potential ISIS ties. And let me again assure you that individuals who are identified to have those ties would pose a concern to us from a public safety and a security perspective, and they would be priorities for detention. And
now, there's a sleight of hand going on here, according to multiple members of Congress and not just Republicans. It wasn't 400 individuals. When he says the report wasn't correct, he's right. It wasn't 400 individuals. It was more than that, and he's not saying that. More than that. That's, by the way, not just Republicans in Congress who were briefed on the report. It's Democrats as well saying the news report was wrong. It's more than 400 people. Mayorkas saying that the report was wrong. Yes, the report was wrong. The number's higher than that. A reporter, however, calls him out. Reporters have had enough.
Obviously, the media, the nation has had their eyes on the brutal crimes committed recently by illegal immigrants. One of them was actually wearing an ICE ankle monitor. Yet this morning you said in an interview that the safety of the American people is the priority and that these individuals are vetted. But we know in our conversations with the ICE director, we've heard the FBI director say that there are significant gaps in intel. So what would you say to reassure the American people that they are in fact safe? And what would you say to the families who are mourning their loved ones because of these migrant crimes being committed?
well, let me start where you ended. A message to the families is, of course, our hearts are with them, given their suffering. The safety and security of the American public is indeed our highest priority. We screen and vet individuals when we encounter them. If we learn of derogatory information subsequently, later in the process, then we take enforcement action accordingly.
And yet, all these things are happening. You know who's getting on the act criticizing Biden on the border? Joe Manchin.
As far as on the border, I've been saying from day one, we've got to fix that border. You've got to basically control the border. Right. You can't have pardon at the border and catch and release everything that went on. He can say from defending himself, President Biden, is that out of the compassion he had for people who are displaced around the world after COVID, right. But he never it went too far.
This issue is rapidly picking up steam. And it's one the Democrats don't have a good sense on because they don't have a sympathetic ear on this. And it's one that is going to overwhelm the Democrats. It's one that's going to overwhelm Joe Biden if they can't figure out how to message this. And you know what? Saying actually Americans are more violent than immigrants isn't the win you think it is and a talking point when all of these people would be alive, including these police officers and these young ladies would be alive, but for illegal immigrants. The fact that the Biden administration, the best spin they have is that, well, they're still less violent than Americans, doesn't really help bring back the dead. That's the problem. Now, I want to go to Tony before I go to break. Tony, welcome to the show. How are you?
Thank you, Eric. Thanks for having me on. I have a question for you. You explained, I think, very well and used the CNN clip of how the green lights are going to keep the candidates from bickering at each other and talking over each other. My question is, what about the moderators? Can they just interrupt the candidates if they don't like what they're saying? Can they, like they did on CNN the other night, just cut off a conversation with somebody because they didn't like the direction it was headed in?
Yeah, the moderators will be able to do what the candidates can't. And if they do it too much, I think it hurts them and makes them look bad.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's their debate. Go ahead.
I can see them, shutting down Biden if he gets off track too much.
They could. And again, this is a dangerous game for CNN because everyone's going to look at the debate and the moderators through their own biases. And if the moderators are trying to help Joe Biden too much, trying to finish his sentences for him, they're going to get eaten up. If they interrupt Trump way too much, they're going to get eaten up. But also, in fairness to them, if they ask a question and the candidate refuses to answer the question, and that's part of a politician's training for a debate is answer the question you want to answer, not what the moderator wants you to answer. If they push on that, they might win some plaudits from the public for trying to push these guys to answer questions. It is a very tricky thing to do, particularly in such a divided world. I'm going to be fascinated to see if they're able to pull it off. I will be watching that. I don't like to watch the debates, but I don't like to watch train wrecks. But I'm going to watch this one tonight and see the trains collide in Atlanta, Georgia. Americans for Prosperity, speaking of the border issues, has been taking people to the border to see the problems with the Americans for Prosperity Foundation. It's not just a human cost. There's an ecological toil down there as well with a lot of trash, litter, trampled ground down there, uprooted vegetation, farms and crops being destroyed from a wave of people walking through. And Americans for Prosperity has been reminding people about the solutions to the border. They're common sense, conservative solutions. You can go to Secure Border, SecureAmerica.com and find out more. Secure Border, SecureAmerica.com is Americans for Prosperity's website that has all the common sense conservative solutions for the border, from a wall to technology to Border Patrol agents to funding. It's pretty straightforward how to secure the border. We know how to do it, and they're all pretty conservative solutions. If you go to Secure Border, SecureAmerica.com, you can not only find out more, but figure out how to involve yourself in the process to get your members of Congress start moving in the right direction. Secure Border, SecureAmerica.com is brought to you by my friends at Americans for Prosperity. Greetings, conversationalists. Welcome. It's Eric Erickson here across the United States of America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, we have another one, unfortunately. A 21-year-old man from Ecuador suffocated a woman on her 21st birthday and hid her body in a Syracuse park, prosecutors say. The man buried the woman in a shallow grave about 15 feet back from trees in Lincoln Park on the city's north side. According to prosecutor Alphonse Williams, the man was staying in an Airbnb diagonally across the street from the park. The man, Jahan Moise Chakwazi Ilbis, was charged with second-degree murder and concealment of a corpse. He traveled to central New York last week to meet the woman for her birthday. He is an illegal alien who crossed into the United States of America last year, surrendering himself at the border, applying for asylum, and then being let loose into the United States. The ad campaign writes itself, and I cannot believe a super PAC has not yet run the ads. They've got to be coming. Murder after murder after murder after murder of young American women at the hands of illegal aliens who came here in the Biden administration before Donald Trump ever even thought about trying to block the bipartisan plan. And this is the thing the Democrats are doing, is they're saying, well, Donald Trump blocked the plan to secure the border. All of these people came before Joe Biden proposed a plan. Every single one of them was here before then. Drip, drip, drip. Where is the ad campaign from the right on this? It's got to be coming. In fact, I'm told that the Trump campaign tends to actually leverage these stories against Joe Biden to make the case he's made the country less secure. And the Democrats can scream all they want and say how unfair it is, capitalizing on tragedy. The tragedies wouldn't have existed but for the Biden administration's dereliction of duty to American citizens. This is a huge issue for Donald Trump, a huge issue. And not only is it a huge issue, it's one that voters overwhelmingly favor him on already. It's time to run the ads.